Dak Prescott won't be left out of the sweepstakes in 2019. With all of the contract talk justifiably centered around All-Pro defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, there are still others the Dallas Cowboys must also feed this offseason. The good news is with Lawrence now in the books on a 5-year, $105 million deal with $65 million guaranteed, the club can start peeking at the next largest elephant in the room. That one is named Prescott, and while it's no surprise the franchise quarterback will land a second contract, it's been made chandelier clear the team isn't necessarily going to wait until 2020 to get it done. Entering the final season of his 4-year rookie deal, things are on track for it to land this offseason. When asked in Indy if the Cowboys would prefer to get Prescott's deal done in 2019, Executive Vice President of Player Personnel Stephen Jones noted, "That's fair," then went on to explain why they have no problem doing it. "You look at the quarterback who's had the success he's had," he said, via DallasCowboys.com. "He's started since day one. He's a 4th-round draft pick. You can imagine, I'm sure, what Doc is thinking, too. He's the leader of the football team, as most quarterbacks are. He's done everything the right way, and I think he deserves his contract looked at in a very progressive way. I think it's just the right time to look at it. He's in the last year of a contract. We've always said we like to look at players, especially guys that we think have long-term futures with us, and we're sure of that. In the last year of the contract you'd like to extend them, if it makes sense. We'll just have to see. We'll go to work and see what happens." Reading between those lines, the Cowboys are essentially hoping to get Prescott secured beyond 2019 before the season kicks off, but should it not happen, they're just as fine letting him play out his contract year and revisiting talks in 2020. Of course, at that point, the franchise tag comes into play, with the Cowboys not being afraid to use it. There are new variables that will undoubtedly help determine Prescott's asking price, the most prevalent at the moment being the coming contract on Russell Wilson. Wilson informed the Seattle Seahawks in January that he wants his extension by April 15, and considering the likelihood of the Cowboys getting one done with Prescott by then is virtual nil, the expectation is that Wilson will set the market at the QB position, rightfully so, considering his success in the league and the accompanying Super Bowl ring. Prescott has had success of his own in his first 3 seasons, but not the extent of Wilson, who won the aforementioned Super Bowl in his 2nd year. All of these, and a whole lot more, will be talking points in the contract negotiations with Prescott, but while nothing is imminent, as the two sides haven't begun to dig into talks just yet, there's still optimism something will be agreed to this summer. "I mean, that's what we'd like to do," Jones recently told ESPN's Jam Session. "You don't get to control those things. There's two sides to this. We've really never just gotten into the weeds in terms with Doc himself in terms of what his preference is. I know he's focused on winning and really getting as many players as he can out there working so we can have a great team next year. At the same time I'm sure it'll be coming. There will be a point in time where we all get around and say, hey, let's get this done by a certain time and put it behind us. Under no circumstances will the Cowboys sacrifice money for expediency though, as evidenced in the drawn-out Lawrence saga that involved 2 franchise tags before the second was ultimately replaced with a long-term deal this April. At the same time, and I know Doc wants this, you want a supporting cast, Jones said. That's the way to go down as being one of the great quarterbacks to ever play the game, win championships. There's been a lot of good players who won a lot of games and have good stats, but if you don't have championships, certainly there's an empty feeling there. His number 1 goal here is to win Super Bowl championships. He's a winner. He's a leader. I just feel good that we'll find our way to a place that the contract enables us to surround him with a great supporting cast, which a lot of it's in place. If you look at our offensive line, look at our receiving core, you look at Ezekiel Elliott, a lot of it's there. Obviously with Jason Witten coming back and some young tight ends, certainly that's a nice spot for us, too. We've just gotta keep building on that, and be able to fit Doc in. He certainly deserves to be paid fairly. He's a fourth-round pick out of Mississippi State, as we all know. He's never made a lot of money, per se, with his contract. Certainly deserves to be paid and be paid fairly. The mention of Elliott is key here, considering the two-time rushing champ and two-time All-Pro is also in line to land what will be a massive extension of his very own. The same goes for three-time Pro Bowl wideout Amari Cooper and All-Pro cornerback Byron Jones, filling out the remaining three faces on the Mount Rushmore of deals the Cowboys would like to get done sooner than later. Contrary to popular belief, there's plenty of cap space to make it all happen, as Jones well knows, but that doesn't mean the team will throw financial caution to the wind. Insider, breaking down the Cowboys' salary cap post-Lawrence deal, the club will approach negotiations in the same manner they always do, which is why they've enjoyed sizable cap space in 2019 and the coming windfall of it in 2020, as older bad contracts expire and are replaced with newer, team-friendly deals that work for both sides, or, at bare minimum, for the Cowboys. Prescott certainly has leverage in having saved the Cowboys from a post-Aikman-esque black hole, and with no definitive replacement in reach, there is little doubt he'll be with the organization for a long time to come. The club has leverage as well though, because if an extension doesn't land in 2019 as they hope, they can and will franchise tag Prescott in 2020 and try the dance again. Should nothing land 1 year from now either, they could entertain doing it one more time in 2021, although that would cost them far more than they'd like to pay in that season. All of this, and more, is why the Cowboys are ready to cut his check sooner than later. They're not going to rush it though, considering how complex and expensive QB contracts can be. In preparation for the coming talks, Prescott fired his old agent in 2018, Jeff Guerriero of ProSource Sports, and signed with Todd France of Creative Artists Agency, CA, the mega-conglomerate widely revered as one of the top agencies in the world of sports. Some of CAA's clients currently in the NFL include Drew Brees, J.J. Watt, Phillip Rivers and Aaron Rodgers. Each of those NFL stars are playing under Leviathan-sized contracts with the respective teams, and the agent switch is something the Cowboys have definitely seen before. Tony Romo fired agent Ken Kramer and signed with CAA in 2012, and 1 year later inked a 6-year extension with the Cowboys worth $108 million and $55 million guaranteed, and while that's still seen today as a massive contract, it bears mentioning that was 6 years ago. The salary cap at the time was $120.6 million, but now sits at $188.2 million after seeing consistent increases year over year. It will be driven higher yet again, 1 year from now, and that's one reason the $18 million average annual salary on Romo will absolutely not stand when it comes time to approach Prescott over half a decade later. The fact players like Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo earn $25 million annually and $27.5 million annually gives strong indication that if Prescott does sign, it'll be closer to the $30 million per year variety. With that many commas and a lot of guaranteed money to discuss, it's no wonder the Cowboys are fine to let talks flow organically. This could lead to the extension on Cooper landing first, and maybe Jones as well, but the club currently has the time, money and roster prowess to be patient in all approaches. HQ The Dallas Morning News.